Glass of water and a Coke, please.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dueling Aces for 619. This is the abbreviated version.
Yes.
Today with
Hour
me,
tops.
I have Bruiser. He's fired up. You can tell already, folks. He's a little fired up. I'm Zolt coming at you from the villa. And as the sub headline says, we are the ones who show up.
I really need to give props to your pool guy there at the villa. Like that's a gorgeous setup you got going on.
It is.
The gardener,
nice.
the pool guy, they do a great job.
They do. There's a good team here.
What is the pool temp
make
right
any
now?
changes. You know what? I've kind of taken to the point now. I feel I was micromanaging a bit too much at the last place. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take the temp every day because this is just going to be one of those things where it's like I go in and it's either right or it's wrong.
I feel like if you keep it like at a balmy 75, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about it. Like I said, there's a good team here and everything's going to go good. So long as, the pool temp is good when I get in, so long as, nobody's flying no drones overhead taking pictures, George,
Right.
that kind of stuff, we're good. We're good. Everything's going to be copacetic.
I think for the winter villa this year, you need to go for an affinity pool.
Yeah, I mean, you're limited to the market,
Listen, for the Zolt family, I really don't think there's any limitations on that market, man.
There is, I mean, there
You
can
got that
be.
Rite Aid money?
You remember, I was on the cruise there for a few weeks while this place was being finished up. There were some changes we wanted made. Infinity pool at the last minute as an add-on is
that's
not
true.
always possible.
But you can. I mean, you can start scoping the market now to get that infinity pool.
True, but I prefer to kind of like live in the moment. I mean, it took us a while to get into this place, so I don't want to. I want to enjoy it, and then
Sure. I mean, that
from
clay
now,
tile roof is gorgeous.
isn't it? It's beautiful. You should hear when the rain hits it. It's just got a certain sound to it.
It's amazing. Listen, and this is no joke. One of the places that I used to take care of, like mow the grass for, was a photo studio that had the Spanish clay tile roofing. And we got stuck out there during a thunderstorm one day, and it does sound amazing when the rain hits it.
It does. It's not to say it rains a lot because it doesn't, but
No.
it is definitely something. I think we definitely picked a winner this time around.
I think you did great.
Thanks. So we were discussing before we went on air, for whatever reason, we just happened to bring up Michigan, and we were talking about Michigan football and
Yes.
how things are looking right now, and expectations, I believe, was really what piqued our interest as, hey, we should actually go live. It's we've been sitting here for 40 minutes. We might as well just go live now.
We might as well actually talk to the people, the 2 or 3 people that tune in to hear what us idiots have to say on a Monday night.
So I'm the Michigan guy. So I actually kind of want to kick it to you, how you feel the expectations are for Michigan football this year.
So I will go off of what my expectations are for my university as a University of Texas fan. And I think that 8 wins this year for Texas is a fair expectation. I think that an 8-4 schedule with a win over Oklahoma, because Oklahoma still is pretty down, is a fair expectation. From the outside looking in, seeing what Michigan has done over the last 6 years, slowly and steadily building. I mean, there was that point when Harbaugh couldn't beat a ranked team and then started beating ranked teams. And then it was, well, you need to win your division.
Yeah.
Well, that last stumbling block was always Ohio State.
Yep.
You beaten Ohio State twice in a row.
Yep.
Um, in years that they were expected to go to the college football playoff, mind you. So you've beaten. It's not like you beat a down Ohio State team. You beat a very peak Ohio State team.
Yeah.
So now, and then you've gone to the college football playoff 2 years in a row and gotten your clock cleaned.
Fair.
And but you've won the Big Ten twice.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've beaten Ohio State. Now you've won the Big Ten twice. Now you've gotten to the college football playoff twice. Now I think is the time where you have to at least make the national championship game. I don't care if you win. I know University of Michigan fans and alumni will care if you win or not. But
Yeah.
as someone who is again on the outside looking in, I think the next step in growth of that program, of attracting the level of talent that used to always pick Michigan over Ohio State or Minnesota or Wisconsin or any of the other Big Ten schools, and now with the added recruiting ground of Southern California and Oregon and Washington, I think that going to winning a college football playoff game and going to the national championship game, whether you win or lose, is the next step in your evolution. And I think that if you don't win a college playoff game this year, then it's a bad year.
I'm not going to disagree. I really think that is the next step, and I hate to say making it to the college football playoffs isn't enough because I mean, 4 teams make it, at least for now. 4 teams get in the country.
Right.
4 teams are good enough.
Well, was it next year? Is it 2024 that it goes to 8 or 12?
I believe it is.
So I think
that's also when Michigan plays Texas.
is this year.
No, it is 2024. They moved it. Yes, I believe they pushed it a year when Texas and Oklahoma announced that they were going to the SEC.
Okay, well then that's fine. Listen, I'll wait for next year. I'm going.
Yeah,
we're gonna go.
I literally think it was a thing where Texas said, "Okay, we're gonna push it a year if it's okay with you because we want to make sure that money goes to the SEC and not to the Big 12."
The Big 12, which is fine. But I legitimately think we are just a short time period away from schools being in conferences in name only.
Yeah, I mean we've definitely had the discussions as far as conferences disappearing, going away, and mega conferences just kind of popping up because that's the direction it's going. As much as we hate it,
what started it all was Nebraska joining the Big Ten way back when.
Yeah.
And the original dissolution of the Big 12 and them absorbing the Big East in 2008?
Yeah, which is funny because literally, I don't want to call it a death knell, but Nebraska has done absolutely nothing since they showed up in the Big Ten.
They've been in the Big Ten title game, what, once?
Maybe.
They played Wisconsin, didn't they?
It wasn't recent.
No, I mean this is probably 10 years ago. I mean but they haven't done anything.
It's just funny because you're right. That is what started it, and it was something that university was not prepared for, obviously.
Because you had Nebraska moving to the Big Ten. That was when Mizzou and Texas A&M joined the SEC, and that was kind of the start of the downfall of the Big 12. The Big 12 merged with a bunch of teams from the Big East, like not Pitt, but West Virginia and a couple others. Got absorbed into the Big 12, and then we just started making moves that didn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, look, Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC makes a little bit of sense considering where Austin is geographically. It's not far from Louisiana or Arkansas. Hell, one of the big rivalries used to be Arkansas and University of Texas.
Right.
And Oklahoma is kind of one of those weird states that doesn't fit into any geographical location because of they're a mix of everything. So I can see Oklahoma being in the SEC. Nebraska being in the Big Ten, yeah, it's a Midwestern state. It fits. Missouri in the SEC, not really. I'd rather see Missouri in the Big Ten.
We wanted it then, to be honest with you. We were calling for that then, so it just didn't happen.
I would love to. I would. I don't think we're far off from the dissolution of the NCAA either.
No, we're not. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think the NCAA is kind of preparing themselves for it. Um, like we saw previously, where literally they went to the different divisions and said, "Okay, you all can come up with your own rules." Okay.
Right.
So, I mean, so exactly what are you doing?
But with the NIL money, especially, you know, what I wonder though is if the NCAA fully dissolves and you have all that money coming in from football and basketball to the major college programs, is that still going to get filtered down to women's softball or men's lacrosse or wrestling? I mean, states like Iowa, Minnesota, their wrestling programs are never going to hurt ever.
Right. Right.
Penn State, Michigan State, Georgia, Alabama, they all have great wrestling programs. They're never going to hurt Arizona. Oddly enough, Arizona State's not good at anything else, but they're great at wrestling.
Right.
But those programs, you know, are subsidized by the football, the basketball, the major, sometimes baseball, and so Alabama women's softball's huge.
Yeah.
Like there's those
I
programs
mean,
subsidize some of the other ones.
Oklahoma softball,
Oh yeah,
who this year was, I mean,
they were a
I don't,
juggernaut.
amazingly enough, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe they lost once.
Yes,
And it
I
was a
watched
long time ago.
I watched that game where Alabama lost in the College World Series, and I'm not even an Alabama fan. I'm like, this is gut wrenching.
Yeah.
I felt bad for those girls.
Yeah. I honestly, Michigan has definitely had their time in the sun in softball. There's no doubt about it. They've been there multiple times. It's it's always fun to watch. It's just one of those things where it's never on except at a specific time of year, and either your school's in it or they're not.
Right. But my my wonder is with all these programs moving around, you got was it USC and UCLA,
Yep, starting
and
next
then
year.
and then eventually Washington or
There's
Washington
there's
State.
there's questions as to everybody else. Like, there's, if we're getting into that whole thing right now, there's a huge waiting game in the Pac-12. The
Right.
waiting because they still have not announced their TV package deal.
Well, they
Because
were partnered with ESPN.
yep, but that contract came up, and now it's how much money can they get? And the longer this goes, the worse it looks, because you need to announce that so that your conference members know how much money they're getting. And the only reason you would have to not announce it is, number one, you don't have a deal, or number two, you don't like the money. And let's face it, if you don't have a deal, the reason you don't have a deal is because you don't like the money.
Right.
Whatever that contract is, especially losing USC and UCLA, that number is going to come back. It's not going to be pretty. And then you're going to see Oregon, you're going to see Washington go, why are we here? Because
But where do they
we,
go? Do they go to the Big 12? Do they join the Mountain West?
okay, I can't speak to all of the teams. I can speak to Oregon and Washington. The Big Ten has already done their due diligence and they have invites waiting. They
Okay,
don't want to
well,
give them until they know that there's a reason that they could be accepted. And that would almost, they're not going to have divisions, but that would almost be a division right there with
USC,
USC.
Oregon,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, because that's a hell of a cross country journey. But the other question is if the Pac-12 dissolves, what happens to the Rose Bowl?
Yeah, I mean that's it's a great question. I mean, okay, so the Rose Bowl is still going to be, I would imagine, in the rotation for college playoffs.
True, but
So
uh, well, and then with the with it going to 12, 12 teams in 2024, wasn't the original plan to play the playoff games in bowl games now?
yeah, all right. So last I had heard, and I honestly don't know if it's official or not. At least the first round of games is the plan is to play them on home campus locations. So it's going to be somebody's going to have, each of those four
I
initial
mean,
games are going to have
can
home advantage.
I that sounds great and all. I mean, can you imagine Alabama and USC in the first round on USC's campus?
Yes.
Or you got, you know, Ohio State and Georgia at the shoe, or Michigan and Auburn up in Ann Arbor. Those would all be great, but I think you could name 6 bowl games where you could play those at and be pretty neutral site. I mean, Peach Bowl,
Yeah.
Cotton, uh, Sugar, Rose, Fiesta, and then the Gator Bowl or somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right. Uh, take it back to the Pac-12. I did see that they're attempting to shore things up after losing USC, UCLA. Uh, San Diego State told the Mountain West that they're going to leave, and then tried to retract it. And Mountain West said, "No, you said you're leaving, so we're just going to take you at face value." Um, so not terribly sure
San,
exactly what's going on there.
San Diego State in the Pac-12 wouldn't be bad.
It wouldn't be bad. It makes sense. They're an up and coming team in both basketball and football.
Boise State in the Pac-12.
That would be the death knell for the Mountain West, right there.
I I, I don't disagree, but the I almost feel at this point with all the super conferences forming, because you're almost to the point where you're going to have within the next 3 years you're going to have 16 teams in the SEC.
Yeah,
You're getting
yeah.
close to having 16 teams the in the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, let's take it to the ACC. Who this was probably a month ago now. It came out that basically the top 7 teams in the conference were looking for a way out. They were looking. They're in a contract until the next decade, I believe,
Yes,
but they were looking to see if it was possible to escape. That's that's not something that you do if you're in a healthy conference, and that
the
the other
ACC
team. Go ahead.
the ACC hasn't been healthy in a number of years.
And then
So,
that was where they came up with the whole, well, maybe we'll just do a payment plan based on success,
well,
which
are you a healthy conference if you extend the invite that they did to Notre Dame, where you're part of the conference but you're not?
right, exactly.
You know what I mean? You just want the Notre Dame money that
Yep,
NBC gives them.
that's taking what you can get. That's exactly what it is.
And with the Big East being gone for a while, I almost feel like it would be smart. And I know that the Big Ten is not going to let Maryland and Rutgers go willingly. However, but if you can attract Rutgers and Maryland, or you can get, like Temple, some of those old school stalwart AC or Big East teams, Syracuse and whatnot, to come down to the ACC, and you can grow your conference, you might be able to compete with an SEC on a level. You might be able to compete with a Big Ten. I don't think we're far off from the conferences like the Sun Belt or the the Mountain West or any of those schools dropping down a level to 1AA.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how far that's going to go. I mean, you almost have. I don't want to even say almost. You already have a Division 1 AA
Hmm.
in FBS right now.
Yeah.
Just,
Temp.
nobody calls it that, but that's exactly what it is. They call it the Power Five, and
You have the Power
it's
Five, and then everybody
everybody
else.
else. Yes, and it's again, it's not the Power Five anymore. They can call it that all they want because that's what the language is in the contracts. It's not the Power Five anymore.
It is the Power Three.
Yes, yes, and whether it stays the Power Three or not, that's going to be the question.
There, the SEC set off this arms race in the early 2000s when they, for lack of a better term, poached Nick Saban from Miami. And then the race was on
Yep.
because Florida shocked the world and beat Ohio State when Ohio State were world beaters in 06. And then LSU did it again in 07. And then, if I remember right, was it 08 that Alabama won their first title? Or was it 09?
If Adam was here, he could probably tell you. I unfortunately cannot.
But the Nick Saban hire wasn't long after that. And then we were off to the races. And then we had the Cam Newton saga with Auburn. So this arms race got set off in the early 2000s. And then the Big Ten counterpunched. And then the Pac-12 tried to counterpunch. And then USC had all those sanctions against them. And it took them out of the race for a long time. And now we're to the point where it is just the Big Ten and the SEC gobbling up schools and recruiting areas because that's who the real arms race is.
Yeah.
And it would behoove remaining members of the Pac 12 and remaining members of the Big 12 to maybe come together and reform kind of the old Big 8 conference with Colorado and Iowa, you know what I mean, those schools, because otherwise you're not going to get a fair shake at the TV revenue.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the ratings that, for whatever reason, Ohio State and Northwestern on a random Thursday night's going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have the SEC, you have the Big Ten. The Big 12 is trying to position themselves to be the number 3 conference, and they would be perfectly happy to be the number 3 conference. There's enough schools out there, they could probably make it work. The ACC doesn't know what the hell to do with itself because their teams want to leave and they can't. And then the Pac 12 is one defection away from being defunct.
Yes.
That's and like you said, it was an arms race. It was started by SEC. It's never really stopped. There's just been periods of a ceasefire as contracts expire.
Right. And if you look at, I think the thing that annoys me a little bit is if you look at some of the athletic facilities for the other teams, right? Or I don't even mean football teams. I mean, go to University of Alabama and look at like their swimming locker room or their softball or baseball locker room. And it's nice, but go look at their football facility. Or University of Michigan or Ohio State or even a smaller school like Akron, you know? I think the last figure I saw that Alabama, their new football facility, was like 3.5 or almost $4 million that they spent on it. And that doubled LSU's total that LSU spent on theirs, like 2.5 million.
Right. Uh, okay. So since I literally was just there, you're bringing that up. Michigan Stadium, the new scoreboards, and we've touched on this briefly like a couple months ago. They're installing new scoreboards at the stadium. Like
Like $10 million.
the scoreboard project was initially approved at 41 million.
Good Lord.
It's coming in under budget at about 37.
That's not awful.
That's not awful. And the university announced, like you said, the trickle down effect. That 4 million is going to replace video boards for field hockey, soccer, baseball, and softball.
Hey, look, cool.
Yes. Still, that was a $41 million project for scoreboards.
I mean, look, I get it. I don't like spending $300 on a new TV.
Well,
You know what I
and
mean?
I will say this, for 41 million, maybe I can actually now see what's happening on the field if I'm at the stadium.
I mean, short of installing the giant scoreboard that's at Bristol Motor Speedway that hangs over the infield, or the giant thing that down there in Dallas at Jerry World,
Right.
you
Right.
know, some of the Big Ten stadiums are archaic, man. They
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
are. And they need a lot of maintenance and modern upgrades. And while the big house is nostalgic and it harkened back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s when, you know, old school football like that was king, it needed that renovation project. And
Right.
I don't necessarily have a problem with them spending $41 million on scoreboards, because of they're putting them in both ends of the stadium, and they came in under budget, so now they're spending $4
Yeah.
million.
They're helping the other sports.
They're
Yeah.
helping the other sports. So like,
And
that's good on them.
yeah, and I actually I want to correct myself because it's a $41 million budget for the entire project, and the project is more than just scoreboards. So, for example, estimated cost of site work and design fees, that's 12 million right there.
Well, I mean, you got to figure out how to anchor those big sons of
Yes,
bitches.
yes, you do. 8 million will fund production room upgrades for Chrysler Center. So that's Michigan basketball.
Well,
Although
and
they will,
hockey too.
yeah, they will be used. It says for the different sports. 12 million fund replacement of the video board. So 12 million is north and south end zone video boards. And the quote was, "We will be going larger." Um, four, 4 million to fund permanent safety additions for access, whatever that means. I
probably
like
like
the way it sounds though.
probably like handicap ramps, or if you've been to like some of the arenas, they have those areas where they've taken grandstand seating and other rows of seating away and made like a poured concrete area where you can put wheelchairs and stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
probably something like that.
And 5 million to replace the audio system.
I
So
mean, let's face it, that audio system was terrible.
yeah, it's an entire experience thing. So I get it. It's a ton of money, but I mean,
Well,
you're making so much.
if I were to go to the University of Michigan box office and I wanted to just buy a ticket for a game, I got to be spending northwards of $100 a ticket, right?
I would have to believe so.
So if you're going to want to get people out of their house to go to your stadium, not just go, but it's not like the NFL where it's 8 games a year plus 2 preseason games. You're now at, you're at 6 games a year
Okay,
for home.
let me. I can read them to you. I've got the pricing now. Single game tickets have not gone on sale yet. They go on sale in about 3 weeks. So I'm going to read the home games. Please do not judge the
I
out of conference schedule.
I'm not
I'm
George.
judging. I'm judging it so hard.
Listen, I'm not. I follow the University of Texas. We play our sisters Mary of the Blind,
Yeah.
St. Augustine's School for Crippled Children, and then just some random bum. Like, that's our out of conference every year, so I can't judge.
Okay, so it's a 7 game home schedule this year.
Okay.
You tell me which game is interesting enough to you that you want to know the ticket price for.
Okay.
East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Indiana, Purdue, Ohio State.
I would probably be pretty apt to go see the Bowling Green game because
Tied,
I had family that went to Bowling
okay,
Green. Um, the
tied,
other
tied for
one,
the cheapest.
and probably that in East Carolina or Indiana.
Okay, so Bowling Green and UNLV are both the same cost, and it's anywhere from it's a range. So $55 to 100 per ticket.
Okay.
That's not terrible. I mean,
No.
you're going to be able to get tickets to those. So East Carolina is just north of that at 60 to 105. The Rutgers, Indiana, Purdue trifecta is 70 to 110, and then you have the Ohio State game,
Which probably
which
starts at 100.
it starts at 175.
Well, again, it's the Ohio State. That's one of the biggest rivalries in college football.
Yep.
The if it the I was hoping that you were going to say Minnesota was a home game because that's a game I would want to go see. I legitimately I want to go see the Paul Bunyan's Axe game. I want to go see the Little Brown Jug game. I really want to go see the Land Grant Trophy game between Penn State and Michigan State. That stuff that's cool stuff. I
It's
like to make it.
it's I'm just looking at this. I'm like, God, I mean, other than Ohio State, there is nothing on here that's going to make me want to buy season tickets.
No, but you if you look at again 65 to 105 for most of those games, or we'll just say anywhere from a range of 50 to $125
Yeah,
for 6 out of the 7 home games
right.
is pretty reasonable.
It is. It's pretty reasonable. Although, once you do like a season ticket package, by the way, then you're getting your personal seat license and all those fun little things that they throw at you where you're paying a heck of a lot more for the privilege of going to watch games.
Yeah, but if I'm just a Joe Schmo and I have an
Yeah,
open Saturday and I'm like, I'll make the 3-hour trip to Ann Arbor to see a game,
right.
going to see UNLV for $50 a pop, and then whatever I got to pay in gas and tolls, it's
Yeah,
probably a $400 round trip, but I can do
yeah,
that. I can swing that. You know what I mean?
yep. You're splurging for the year. Absolutely. This is going to be a big trip. We're going to go have fun.
Right. That's kind of what I'm basing the trip up there for the Texas game next year off of is how often do I get to see Texas in my backyard?
Yeah, right. Um, Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Real quick is probably that's going to be a no, but what the hell? We'll see what happens.
But
Um,
you might see with the dissolution of the NCAA, the dissolution of conferences as we know it, you might see more ticket packages like that in the future where Indiana might be playing in Arizona State in Indiana.
right.
And you have transplants and expats who are Arizona State alumni that live in Indiana or Ohio or Illinois or Michigan who say, you know what, for $65, I'll go down there and see my alma mater play in Indianapolis, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like we said, it's not that's not out of the realm of possibility to go watch. So I'm glad, but at the same time, we're not playing anybody. That's that's even that's a horrible in conference schedule too. You're not getting Michigan State at home. You're not getting Penn State at home. You're not getting Minnesota at home.
But you're going to Minnesota this year, aren't you?
I do believe so. Let me pull that schedule back up because I had it and I lost it. And or the schedule. There it is. Yes, we are at Minnesota. We are at Nebraska. at Michigan State, at Penn State, at Maryland. At Penn State is always scary. At
Uh,
Minnesota could be a game.
I thought Texas's schedule, if they manage to win 8 or 9 games, might be a little bit more impressive than Michigan's schedule this year.
Yeah.
We have Rice at home. Then we go to Alabama. Then we host Wyoming. Then we're at Baylor, home against Kansas. Then it's the Red River Shootout with Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl. Then we go to University of Houston. We host BYU. We host Kansas State. We go to TCU. We go to Iowa State, and then we're home against Texas Tech.
Okay.
Those are nice scoreboards.
That's pretty damn massive. Yeah. It sure looks like the entire thing is just going to be a video board. So whatever ads they want to put, they can just put on the board, section it off.
But that's honestly where a lot of places are going for now, is because rather than the old signs that had Budweiser or whatever that were static, now you can sell that ad space at a premium to multiple companies.
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, it's like the when you watch an NHL game and you're sitting in the arena and the boards are still white, but if you watch it on TV, you can see they look like LED boards.
Yeah.
And they're not. And it's just selling all that ad space.
Absolutely. And you can change them up whenever you feel like it.
Right.
Yeah. Taking it all the way back to expectations with that schedule, you really, I mean, I rattled off Penn State kind of scares me a little bit there. Minnesota's a question mark just because I don't know exactly what you're going to get out of them. Ohio State is Ohio State.
Sure.
Other than the Ohio State game, you should run this table.
100%.
Ohio State is 50. That's probably a coin flip. You should run this table. You should be in it. You should be going to that playoff. And you damn well should win one of those games.
Can you imagine if Texas manages to beat Alabama and Oklahoma in the same year? I mean, they almost beat Alabama last year.
Right.
But
you know what? You might get Saban to retire.
Dude, I tell you what, if they end up with, let's just think fantastically here. If Texas ends up with a 10-win schedule with a win over Alabama and Oklahoma, I'll split the Texas series. Give me Baylor and Texas Tech. I'll give you the TCU loss. You know what I mean? That's fine. But you give me that, I'm a happy Texas fan, because that means we're bowl eligible and probably one of the higher bowls. That pollen out there at Ville's got to be killing you, man.
I'm telling you, it started like about 3 hours ago, just out of the blue.
The hibiscuses are blooming. That's what it is.
It's there was something in that coconut. I will.
Yeah, we were talking.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Trust me, you go.
All right. Well, we were talking before we went on air about the NHL too, with expectations, and because I didn't know when the NHL draft was, because my other team, Pittsburgh, is clearly in a rebuild.
Okay, so let's see.
Not that they're going to call it that, but
no, you don't dare call it that.
But it is.
So running the current where we're currently at in the schedule for the NHL. So what day did the Cup Finals end?
A week ago.
So it's been. It was late last week, I think.
No, we did the show last Monday, and then they won the Cup Monday night.
Okay. So it's been a week. So buyout period has begun. I have not seen really news about too many buyouts. So I don't think anybody's really pulled the trigger yet. Um, as of today, no. So today's the deadline for first club elected salary arbitration notification. This was technically also the last possible day for the cup final to be if it went 7 games. Um, so next Monday is the NHL awards in Nashville. Tuesday is the general managers meeting, and Wednesday is the draft. Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
And then your buyout period ends on Friday, and free agency opens Saturday, July 1st.
Okay. So we are a week away from July.
Yep. Yeah, about a week and a half. But yes.
Yeah. But we're a week and a half away from July and a week and a half away from free agency. And then training camps begin in what, September?
Yes.
So we're not far off
Nope.
from all of this. And here we are with, uh, you know, you've got teams like Vegas who've been in the league 6 years and won the cup.
Yep.
Kraken who've been in the league 2 years.
And
And
and and you know what? Okay, first off, massive congrats to Vegas. I
yes,
mean,
100%.
well done.
And no, I take that back. Vegas won the cup Tuesday
Okay.
because I was at Cedar Point with the kids on Wednesday. We
Okay.
just took a dad and kids trip up there for
Yep.
a good chunk of the day. And I was amazed at the number of Vegas Golden Knights shirts I saw.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so regardless, the reason I asked what day it was is the whole the buyout period. It either started on the 15th or it started 48 hours after the cup was awarded.
So it would have
So
been Thursday.
it would have been Thursday, which may have actually been the 15th. Hang on.
Yes.
Yes, it was. So okay, they nailed that.
But you've got teams who haven't been in the league very long now winning the cup. And teams that you don't expect making deep playoff runs like the Panthers.
Right.
And yet we're still holding out hope that the Coyotes will somehow form a hockey team at some point.
I mean, are we? No, we are not. I
Is
mean,
but the
we
NHL is.
the NHL is. Gary Bettman is. We are expecting them to
Relocate.
probably get sold again to somebody else and hopefully relocate at some point.
All right. It's the end of the 20. We're going to fast forward a little bit, okay? It is the end of the 2023 into 2024 season.
Okay.
The cup has been awarded to whomever.
Right.
At the start of the 2024-2025 season, are the Coyotes still in Arizona, or are they in Salt Lake, or are they in Atlanta? Because that's the top two of where they're going.
Okay. So here's my conundrum. My conundrum is I think wherever they play next this coming season is where they will play the following season as well. So they're either moving this summer or they're going to be there for a little bit. And I know the league doesn't want them to move. I don't know where they're going to play. If they stay there, I don't know where they're going to play.
Could they play it? Is it University of Arizona in Phoenix?
Yeah, yes, I think.
Could they not play at University of Arizona?
I don't know that University of Arizona has an ice rink. I know Arizona State does because I think that's where they've been playing.
That's true. But I mean, if you're, Because if they go to Quebec, wouldn't I'm not that versed on NHL history, but wasn't Quebec the Nordiques? So it's either you're going to be in Salt Lake City, you're going to be back in Quebec, or you're going to be in Atlanta. Like those are the three places. And to me, honestly, Salt Lake City makes the most sense. You stay in the in the same conference. You
Yep,
don't have to realign
West.
Conferences. You might even stay in the same division.
Yep. And there's already an arena there waiting for you.
Correct. Because the Utah Jazz are there. And you have a city willing to accept them with open arms. I think Gary Bettman would be a fool of a commissioner to not work out a deal with Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just don't know that they'll do it. They're just they're way too stubborn.
Probably not. Stubborn. Look, I mean, we had to have a whole other. We almost had to have a whole other cup the pandemic year because we weren't going to be able to get teams from Canada into the United States. So we would have had an asterisk if a Canadian team had made it to the cup.
It honestly, their plans were the Canadian teams would come to the U.S., probably not be able to go back. So they would have had to finish up with home games at a neutral site.
I mean, we're lucky that not for them. We're lucky that a Canadian team did not make the cup.
Right. I mean, what were the odds?
There's 6 teams in Canada? 7?
Yeah, 6, I believe. And no, those aren't the odds. The odds are slim to none.
True, but I mean, the Oilers sure made a run for it this year.
Yeah, that's the best. That is the best Canadian team I've seen play in a while. And before anybody brings up Toronto, congrats. You made it out of the first round.
First round, I mean, that's first time in how long?
I don't know, long enough to where it's the running joke.
Well, I mean, I did see a stat when the Cubs won the World Series of the odds of the Cubs winning the World Series versus the Toronto Maple Leafs winning an NHL Stanley Cup. And it was better odds of the Cubs winning the World Series.
I don't doubt it.
than the Maple Leafs winning a cup.
And not, I don't want to, I mean, it's Toronto, so I do kind of want to tear them down. But I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't mind how the team is put together. I think the team is well put together. It's just you get to a situation to where that gets in your head.
And I don't doubt it.
It's just you're not going to succeed because you know you're not going to succeed.
Well, look at the Cubs for all those years. Look at how many things went. Bartman, just all those things, and then they get a phantom rain delay and some friendly umps and manage to win a World Series.
Yeah.
I am by no means a huge Cleveland Guardians / Indians fan, but they got robbed that year. They should have won the World Series, and they got robbed. It's just like Galarraga getting robbed of that perfect game.
Right. Yeah. So you brought up the draft. First round is on that Thursday. Second round is on that Friday.
There's 3 rounds of the NHL draft?
There's 7, but you've got round 1 on the 28th, and rounds 2 through 7 are on the 29th. So
it's almost like they're trying to do an NFL thing, but like you're not going to get that much.
No,
because the draft is either going to be on TNT or the NHL Network.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you. Hang on. Okay, let's see. It is at
probably 8:00 on the NHL Network or 8:00 on TNT.
I'm trying to see. ESPN on the 28th at 7.
Okay.
June 29th. It starts at 11 in the morning on the NHL Network.
Which which means that the Sirius NHL channel will be broadcasting the thing the whole time.
Yes.
So I just, to me, if I want to watch the draft on ESPN on that Thursday, does make some sense. Um, or Friday, is it Thursday or Friday?
The
Thursday.
first round of NFL is Thursday.
Thursday. NHL is on Thursday, right?
28th. So whatever day the 28th is. 28th is a Wednesday. So they're doing it Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, well then they couldn't have done it on TNT or TBS because AEW is on that.
Gotcha.
So okay, that makes sense of why it's going to be on ESPN. Plus, they're starting the.
I see we're having technical issues.
My headphones died right in the middle of talking.
Perfect.
But they're doing the new TV deal with ESPN and the NHL does start this year, doesn't it?
Yes, it I believe it's technically already started.
It started this year. This season is when it started. This past season.
I believe so, yes.
Because there were a bunch of games on the ESPN
Right.
app.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, this past season is when it started.
So that would make sense. The draft is also on ESPN because now you're adding credence to that deal a little bit more. Kind of positioning it like you did the NFL draft and making it prime time on a Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay.
And you're not going to do past the first round because, to be perfectly honest, once you get past the first dozen picks,
right,
nobody going to have heard of anybody. You're drafting 17-year-olds.
Well, and that are gonna spend most of the time in your farm club for the next 5 to 7 years.
Yep.
And so, but the other thing with the draft is the NHL produces a lot, or the NFL produces a lot of drama with their draft. Who's trading where? Who's coming out of the first? Who's trading up to that first pick? Those, some of these NHL teams have had an eye on who they're going to draft in the first round of the 2023 draft since 2017.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, So going into the draft, Chicago's got the first pick. They're taking Connor Bedard. We know this. 17-year-old, played in the Western Hockey League for Regina. Seriously, he's been the number one pick in this draft for the past 2 years, and everybody has known it. The only thing, obviously 2 years, weird things can happen. Nothing weird happened. The kid has dominated every level he's ever played at. He's going to be the number one. That's where he's going.
He a winger?
He is a center. He's a center. When kids play in junior, typically the best players get moved to center on the offense, just because there's the most responsibility there. So you're going to put your best players there. Whether he started as a winger or not, most of your top players, they're listed as centers. Number 2 is Anaheim. We talked before we went on air. Adam Fantilli out of Michigan, Hobie Baker Award winner. Just incredible numbers as an 18-year-old freshman. That's pretty much. I guess those are the ones that are set in stone.
Does refresh my memory on the way that the NHL draft works. Is it a lottery system similar to NBA?
Yes, similar to NBA. They already had their lottery. This is how the picks landed. It was anybody that didn't make the playoffs in a ranked percentage, I suppose. That's probably the best way to describe it. As to there's only so many slots you're allowed to move up. And only X number of teams are allowed to move back. It's very convoluted. Nobody understands it, so that they can stack the deck and put Chicago first.
That's not a jaded Red Wings fan talking at all.
Not at all. Not at all. That's just one, I have okay, I have stake in the game. But that's just unbiased opinion.
Listen, I'm not going to say your opinion is not invalid. However, you can say it's really, really loaded if Pittsburgh somehow ended up with the first pick of the draft.
There would have been problems. So
where are they
speaking of
picking at?
14.
That's not terrible.
It's not terrible. So speaking of our two teams, I've got the NHL mock draft up real quick just to see what we're looking at here. So at 9, the Red Wings, they've actually got two different people who are picking. So we have two different options here. We have Zach Benson, a left wing out of Winnipeg of the WHL. Leading scorer on the best team in the WHL this past year. That was 98 points in 60 games.
That's not bad at all.
One of his best assets is it's considered his work ethic. Goes to the dirty areas and is fearless. The other option was Oliver Moore, who's a center out of USA with the under 18 national team developmental program. 5'11", 188, fast skater, speedster, top end skill. Probably factors in as a top 6 centerman, going to be playing at the University of Michigan next season. Going down to pick number 14 for Pittsburgh. The highest Pittsburgh has drafted since 2012. Let's see. We've got Nate Danielson. See, they do the thing where they throw a name, but if the name has already been listed for somebody else, I have to scroll up to find it. Nate Danielson, a center out of Brandon in the WHL. That would be the Brandon Wheat Kings. Right-handed shot, 6'1", 185.
Is
Not
it Brandon
bad.
or Braden?
It's Brandon. Vision and patience with the puck. Made a very large jump for central scouting. So he obviously came, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but he obviously made a lot of improvement. Led Brandon with 78 points in 68 games. Can play all situations, including power play and penalty kill. And your other option we got here is Matthew Wood. Calls him the highest ceiling of any prospect selected in the first round. I'm assuming you're not talking about Connor Bedard. Accurate hard shot, score multiple ways. Like Connecticut. Oh, hang on. Is he already in college? Could be a nice 18-year-old you're drafting here. Got to scroll up. Find him. Lost him. I don't know where he is. Anyway.
He goes to Quinnipiac.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, there he is. Connecticut, the NCAA. So he's a freshman in college. Got better as the season went on. Played for Canada at the World Under 18 tournament where he had 13 points in 7 games.
2 points. It's almost 2 points a game.
So he's a right winger who's 18 years old and is 6'4", 193. Can't teach size.
Dear blessed hockey gods, if you could please deliver this kid to Sidney Crosby, that'd be great. You let him and Evgeny Malkin and Letang get a hold of that kid.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the things that they've got in here. It's like draft is filled with top end forwards, and you need to find centers because you will be replacing Crosby and you will be replacing Malkin, and you need to find those guys now.
Well, look, I think if you can get 2 more years out of Crosby tops, and you could get 2 to 3 out of Malkin, that's probably where you're at. I think that the other thing that you need to address is your secondary goalie.
Okay.
Well, Jari is good. I watched DeSmith when he would be in there just have meltdowns. And if you cannot give Jari some time to rest, like the game against Boston in the Winter Classic, when Jari took that puck right off the thigh and it went under his pad and he was done for the game with that deep thigh bruise. How, if you don't have a competent backup goalie in there, I know it sounds exorbitant, but to be honest, I'd throw the $1 million at Fleury and be like, here, come play 22 games a year is what you got to start. And I would give, if you're at 82 games, was it 80? It's 82 for regular season.
Yep.
So, all right, we're going to give you 20. We're going to give Jari the lion's share at 35, and we're going to give DeSmith the rest. Or we're going to give you the rest, and we'll give, DeSmith a little bit more. But just come in and coach these guys. Be a player coach for us to help them. Because you can't tell me that Fleury doesn't have a lot that he couldn't teach younger goalies.
Come home and finish what you started.
100%. Put the number 29 back on. Come do your swan song here next to the Three Rivers and say goodbye. And maybe win a cup on the way out.
Yeah, I mean, it's the NHL draft. So
listen, every time Pittsburgh's changed the coach, they've won a cup the following year.
I'm not going to put my money on that.
They fired their coach mid-year and won the cup that year.
I understand.
So 2023, 2024 Stanley Cup champions, Pittsburgh Penguins, baby.
Good luck. Good luck with that, sir. I wish you well.
Listen, I have about as much luck of the Pittsburgh Penguins winning the cup the next year as Denny Hamlin does winning an actual NASCAR championship. Which is none, because he always chokes.
Not that I want to open this up, but I'm just going to ask a real quick question. So why the hell was there no thing for us to do fantasy this week? What was this
off week? Off week.
It's just an off week. Okay.
Yeah. So
I didn't know NASCAR did that.
Normally their off week was Easter, but because Fox and NBC split the broadcast year, they put that off week in between. So Fox's broadcast schedule ends at Sonoma, which was last weekend. They have the off week, and then they're going to Nashville this week for the race, and then it'll pick back up, and then they're in Chicago 4th of July weekend. So NBC is going to pick up this week and then go through the rest of the season.
Gotcha. So how long do we have until driver usage resets?
Rest of the summer. So Labor Day weekend.
It's a long way.
Oh, I'm already in asset management mode. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. That was me this past week, and I wasn't happy with the result.
Listen, because Chase Elliott was out for such a long time with the injury and then suspension, I have so many starts left with him. But it has killed me with everybody else because I had to overuse guys that I wouldn't normally overuse.
Yeah.
But your saving grace is that out of the next 5 races, 3 of them are road courses. So you can kind of play around a little bit.
I'm going to be using guys that I don't normally
Michael McDowell, Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell.
That's good. I like this. I like it. That's going to help.
Because they're at Nashville this weekend, and then the street course in Chicago is next weekend.
All right. Cool. Okay. Go ahead.
Did you see that NASCAR actually released an explanation about the L3 penalty that they gave Stewart-Haas Racing in the counterfeit part?
I did not. Go on.
So Stewart Haas Racing got busted a couple weeks ago for an L3 level penalty, which is the highest penalty that you can get. And there's a range within that penalty of the sanctions. And SHR kind of got the low end / middle of the road on a lot of it. What they had done was there's a thing called a NACA duct, NACA. And it is a piece that goes just on the other side of the engine in the firewall to let air in to the cabin of the car to help cool the driver and add some downforce.
Okay. I'm with you.
They made so Stewart Haas, who is Haas Manufacturing,
Right.
3D printed a part to look identical to this NACA duct, including the watermarks that come from the single source supplier for this part, and put it on the car. The main difference was the orifice that allowed air into the car was smaller, so it added more downforce on the car underneath.
Why don't these people go work for NASA? I mean, seriously.
Dude, if you want a good listen, and I know you're not a big NASCAR fan, and like
not.
You're not. You give me shit about it every once in a while, and it's fine because we play back and forth.
That's how it
However,
works.
right. If you really want to listen to some good old-fashioned ingenuity stories, go look up the episode of the Dale Jr. Download with Darrell Waltrip. They used to put lead shot in the frame rails and the roll cage.
Okay.
So as long as the car weighed what it was supposed to weigh and they would weigh them on the, instead of the laser scales like they have now, they had the big 4 tire scales where you pull the car on. And so as long as the car weighed what it was supposed to weigh at pre-race inspection, it didn't matter what it weighed afterward. So they would have this lead buckshot, the BBs in the roll cage, and they would put a piece of wax in the jack post. And as they're going around the track and the heat's building up, the wax would melt and open up the jack post, and all these BBs would fall out and make the car lighter.
And I'm sure that wasn't dangerous to other cars at all.
Everybody was doing it.
So it didn't matter. Nobody cared.
It didn't matter.
So, okay.
Darrell tells the story. They were walking around Martinsville before a race one Sunday morning, and the track inspector was, that was his exercise. He would always walk whatever track that they were at. And he's talking to Darrell, and he says, I go around these tracks and I keep finding all these little BBs, and I don't know where they're from, and he can't figure it out. But all these cars they would have the wax or somewhere in the DW's car was in the jack post, and it would slide out. There was the famous All-Star race that Junior Johnson said, "We're winning this," and built an engine that was so disgustingly cheated, but NASCAR could never prove it, that after the race, Darrell Waltrip grenaded it, and the only cylinder that they couldn't inspect was cylinder number 8. And every other cylinder passed just fine, but cylinder number 8 had grenaded, and they don't know it was
how. I don't know how this happened.
Junior Johnson developed. If you ever watch some of the old NASCAR footage, guys would swing the jack around them.
Okay.
Junior Johnson developed the swivel on the jack to let the jack swing, but it also had the added effect of Junior Johnson would swing the jack around as he came around to do the pit stop and knock over the official, so the official couldn't see them not tighten all the lug nuts or whatever they were doing.
Right.
NASCAR has famously been a sport of finding the gray areas in the rules.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about it, but I was so mad about the Stewart-Haas penalty because you weren't finding the gray area. You out and out cheated.
You're just like, look, there's this thing, we're gonna replace it.
and NASCAR, from the moment that the Gen 7 car was in production and being brought out, it was designed so that it would save the teams from themselves and continually one-upping and trying to find the gray areas. It's like, here's your rule book, play within it. Find what you can find, but play within it.
Right.
And to blatantly cheat like that is, to me, a bit of a problem.
Right.
Austin Dillon got busted. The Richard Childress Racing got busted with a L2 penalty earlier in the year because there was a part that they figured out how to put a turnbuckle on to lower the chin spoiler just enough on super speedways to pick up more downforce. And it's a spot that's not supposed to have a turnbuckle, but they put it in such a fashion that if you look at it and it goes through the optical scanner, it passes. So to me, that's smart cheating. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have a big problem with let's 3D print a part and make it look like that. And then to come up with the excuse of it was an internal quality control issue, that part should have never been on the car. Bullshit. That part's been on the car a number of times and you got caught. You
literally removed what was there and replaced it with something that you created.
Correct.
That's not a mistake.
I mean, last year, I don't know if you remember the double disqualification last year at Pocono where first and second place both got disqualified.
Right.
Joe Gibbs Racing found out because they don't paint the cars like they used to. They're wrapped now.
Yeah.
Well, they figured out if they put the 2 pieces of this packing tape right where the front bumper and valance met the quarter panels, it smoothed it out. And over a long run, they could pick up 1/10, maybe 2/10. And that's what got them busted. So it was just a couple extra layers of wrap under the main layer of wrap.
I will say, as much crap as I give you, some of these things are absolutely fascinating.
Dude.
Just the lengths you go to pick up 1/10 of a second.
Dude, guys like Smokey Eunuch back in the 60s and 70s, you could only have so many pounds of fuel in your tank. Smokey Eunuch would take a basketball and put it in the tank and then inflate it and have under the legal limit of fuel, but it would register as what was supposed to be in there.
Right.
Then he would pop the basketball, deflate it, take the basketball out, and then have an extra gallon or 2 of fuel in the car. There was they caught on to that. So at one inspection, they took the fuel tank from his car. Smokey got in the car, fired the car up with no gas tank in it, and drove it away because they said he said, to paraphrase, you told me what size of tank I could have in it, but never what size fuel lines. He would have 1-inch fuel lines in it that would hold an extra gallon, 2 gallons of gas.
Right.
So, I mean, famously, you're talking about a sport that got its origins from running from revenuers in the South.
Right. I mean, let's face it, it is a league created out of Sudbury rules.
Yes.
That's basically it.
Yes, but and people shit all over it because it's from the South and it's rednecks. And if you actually stop to look at the ingenuity that came out of that, it came out of some, like, if you ever get a chance to go down to Charlotte and go to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, there's some awesome stuff in there. they have a 92 Grand Prix cut in half. And it has a floor model Grand Prix and Richard Petty's Grand Prix from 92 together. And you can see the stark differences.
Right. Right.
So, hey, we made it an hour.
We made it an hour. So I just want to say, number one, thank you, Bruiser, for hanging out with me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We are the ones who show up. Anybody that's watching this, if you've actually made it this far, God bless you. Thank you very much.
Listen, you, me, and Adam usually generally have intelligent conversation.
We try. At least we fake it. I mean, that's
100%.
For Bruiser, for myself, thank you all for showing up just like we did, and we will see you on the next one.